My wife said, "The judge will give me the dog. He is my emotional support animal now." I replied, "That is certainly a new development." I waited until our court date. I handed the judge the original adoption papers in my name only. I also provided every vet bill I alone paid for 5 years straight. When the judge laughed and fined her for perjury. I, Sterling, 37, male, had been with Willow, 35, for 8 years, married for 5. Our life in Sacramento, California, was a carefully staged performance of her social aspirations. We lived in a stylish rented townhouse in Midtown, a space filled with minimalist furniture and a rotating collection of modern art she curated. I was a hydrologist for the state, managing water resources, a stable career that earned me $95,000 a year. Willow was a social media manager for a boutique winery, a job that brought in $70,000, but provided a lifestyle of endless tastings and influencer events. Our life revolved around her world, with dinners at places like the kitchen and weekends spent with her friends, Duncan and Phoebe, who saw my scientific work as a respectable but hopelessly dull profession. At the center of my world, however, was Coda, my 5-year-old Bernese mountain dog, a gentle giant I had adopted 2 years before I even met Willow. Don't miss the twist. Subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. The opportunity that would change my life arrived on a cool Tuesday morning. It was a formal offer letter from the U.S. Department of the Interior. They were creating a new lead position for a major river basin restoration project based in Boise, Idaho. It was a chance to spearhead a project with national significance. The offer was a significant step up. A lead hydrologist role with a salary of $185,000, full federal benefits, a relocation package, and a government-issued Ford F-150. I told Willow that evening, my voice filled with a genuine excitement she hadn't heard in years. I described the project, the chance to make a real difference, the beautiful mountain landscape. She listened with the polite, vacant expression she usually reserved for my explanations of watershed dynamics. "Boys," she asked, a delicate wrinkle forming on her nose. "It's so rugged. And a government job, it sounds so bureaucratic and unglamorous." She shook her head, her tone final. "My entire brand is tied to the California wine scene. You can't expect me to trade that for a life of flannel and hiking boots." Update 1. I quietly accepted the boy's position. Her immediate dismissal of a life that felt meaningful to me was a clarifying moment. My ambition was an inconvenience, something that disrupted the aesthetic of the life she was building. She continued her campaign of subtle condescension. Over dinner with Duncan and Phoebe, she sighed with performative sadness. "Sterling has this idea to take a government job in the middle of nowhere," she said. "He wants to be a park ranger or something. I'm worried he's giving up on having a real life." A Duncan, who worked in tech marketing, nodded sympathetically. "You can't build a personal brand in Idaho, man." Phoebe added, "She needs a partner who is on her wavelength, Sterling." They saw me as a man choosing obscurity over her bright, shining world. I offered no defense. I had already begun my own quiet preparations. I opened a new set of bank accounts. I spent my evenings researching dog-friendly homes in Boise's historic North End, with easy access to the mountain trails I knew Coda would love. Most importantly, I gathered and digitized every document related to my dog, the original adoption papers from the shelter, with my name as the sole owner, and 5 years of veterinary bills, food receipts, and pet insurance payments, all paid from my personal account. I saved them in an encrypted folder, a quiet arsenal of facts. Update 2. I chose a Sunday morning to make my decision final. The townhouse was filled with a sterile, curated silence. "Willow, I've accepted the position in Boise," I stated. "I'm moving in 2 months." Her face, which had been relaxed as she browsed a fashion blog, hardened into a mask of disbelief. "You actually went through with it?" "After I told you how it would destroy my career." "I did," I confirmed. "This is the most important work I could ever do." "Your work," she scoffed. "And what about my life? What about the world I have built for us? The world you built for yourself?" I corrected, my voice even. "I was just a resident." She stood up, her eyes blazing with a cold fire. "Then you can go have your dusty, provincial fantasy alone. You choose that, or you choose me. You don't get both." I thought of Coda, sleeping peacefully at my feet, and the quiet, authentic life I envisioned for us. The choice was the easiest I had ever made. I choose my work, I answered. Update 3. The weeks that followed were a cold war fought in our stylish, silent home. Willow cycled through fits of rage and a dismissive certainty that I would eventually capitulate. She began posting a constant stream of photos of herself with Coda, with captions like, "My one true love," and "My rock through this difficult time." She was building a public narrative of ownership. I remained detached, focusing on the meticulous logistics of my departure. I filed for divorce. I sold my sedan, hired movers, and began packing my books and outdoor gear. On the day the movers came, Willow was gone. She had gone on a wellness retreat to Napa with Phoebe, a final, theatrical performance of her victimhood. I drove my old SUV north, with Coda happily watching the world go by from the back seat. The first morning in Boise, the air was so crisp and clean it felt like a different element. My new home was a beautiful craftsman with a large, wooded backyard that led directly to a trail system. Coda was in heaven. My new office was a place of quiet, focused purpose, filled with people who were passionate about their work. I was finally in a place that felt real. Update 4. 6 months in Boise was a revelation. I was thriving. My work on the River Basin project was challenging and deeply rewarding. Coda and I spent our weekends hiking in the Boise National Forest, the vast, silent wilderness a balm for my soul. My team's initial survey data led to a major breakthrough in understanding the region's groundwater contamination. I received a commendation from the Secretary of the Interior and a $30,000 performance bonus. One afternoon, I received a text from Phoebe. "Sterling, we're all so worried about Willow. She's completely lost without her emotional support animal. She says you stole Coda out of spite." I thought of her new, convenient narrative. The dog she had barely acknowledged for 5 years was now her emotional lifeline. The lie was audacious, but I had the facts on my side. I replied politely. "Coda is doing very well. I hope you and Duncan are fine." Update 5. Our project's initial findings were published in a major environmental science journal. The story was picked up by several national news outlets, and I was quoted in a piece by the Associated Press. My new title, Lead Hydrologist for the U.S. Department of the Interior, was now part of the public record. The news eventually reached Sacramento. Willow's emails began that night. "Lead hydrologist. You made it sound like a junior field technician," one accused. "You deliberately orchestrated this to humiliate me," another claimed. Then came the call from Duncan. His voice was thick with an apology. "Sterling, man, we were so wrong," he said. "Willow painted this picture of you having a breakdown, of you running away from a real career. We saw that article. We had no idea. My own family, who had always supported my quiet passion, called, their voices filled with a simple, profound pride. The verifiable, public truth had finally silenced her private, manipulative lies." Update 6. The divorce proceedings began in earnest. Her lawyer, taking cues from her social media campaign, filed a formal motion demanding sole custody of Coda. The motion included a recently obtained certificate from an online service, declaring Coda as her official emotional support animal. She sent me a text, triumphant and sure of her victory. "The judge will give me the dog," she wrote. "He is my emotional support animal now." I looked at the text, then at Coda, who was sleeping with his head on my lap. I typed my reply. That is certainly a new development. Update 7. The hearing was conducted via video conference. Willow, dressed in a somber gray suit, gave a tearful, Oscar-worthy performance about her deep, unbreakable bond with Coda. She spoke of how he was her only source of comfort during my abandonment. Her lawyer presented the online ESA certificate as his primary evidence. When it was my turn, my lawyer, a calm, methodical woman named Ms. Davis, simply shared her screen. The first document she presented was the original adoption contract from the Placer SPCA, dated 2 years before our marriage, with my name as the sole adopter. The second document was a consolidated PDF. It contained 5 years of veterinary bills, food receipts, grooming appointments, and pet insurance premiums, all paid from my personal checking account, all clearly itemized. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with sharp, intelligent eyes, reviewed the documents in silence. "Ms. Hayes," she said, her voice dangerously quiet, "you have testified under oath that Coda is your emotional support animal and that you have been his primary caregiver for the duration of your marriage. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Willow replied, her voice filled with a false confidence. And you stand by that testimony, having seen the evidence Mr. Sterling has just presented? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor. Willow repeated. The judge's expression was a mixture of disbelief and wary disgust. Then I am finding you in contempt of court for committing perjury, she announced, her voice like cracking ice. You will be fined $5,000. Your motion is denied with extreme prejudice. Coda is, and always has been, Mr. Sterling's dog. Update 8, a year passed. My life in Boise was peaceful, prosperous, and grounded in reality. I had been promoted to regional director for the project. Coda was my constant, happy companion. I was in a new, healthy relationship with a woman named Dr. Anya Sharma, the veterinarian who had become Coda's new doctor in Boise. Our connection was built on a shared love for animals and a quiet, easy honesty. One evening, a final email from Willow arrived. Her perjury fine and the story of her courtroom humiliation had spread through her social circle. She had lost her job and several major clients. She had moved back to her parents' home in the Bay Area. I built my life around a performance, she wrote. And you showed everyone it was a lie. I am sorry for trying to take the one thing you truly loved. I replied with a short, polite message. I wish you peace. I blocked her email address. Final update, several months later, I was a guest speaker at an environmental law symposium at Stanford University. After my talk, a distinguished older woman approached me. She was a retired family court judge who now taught at the law school. She shook my hand warmly. Mr. Sterling, she began, a colleague of mine from the Sacramento bench told me about your case. The emotional support animal gambit. She smiled, a wry, knowing look in her eyes. In my 30 years on the bench, I saw it all. People will try to weaponize children, money, and now, even the family dog. She shook her head. She thought a piece of paper from the internet could erase 5 years of receipts. She never understood that the most powerful evidence is often the most mundane. The simple, boring, verifiable truth. Her words brought a quiet, final sense of resolution. I thought of Willow's desperate, last-ditch lie. The judge will give me the dog. It was a threat based on a fiction she had created out of thin air. But a life's worth of quiet, consistent care, documented in a stack of simple, boring bills, was a truth that could not be denied. I looked at a picture of Coda on my phone, and I knew that the greatest loves, and the greatest truths, are often found in the small, everyday details. And in that quiet, certain knowledge, I had found my peace.